morning. Thank you for joining me this early morning. I am going to make a pair of socks for my brother-in-law, Mark. And I'm doing a 15 by 1 mock rib because I don't want it to be too tight on him, with a hung hem, 30 rounds, and then he wants a long cuff, so once I get the hung hem done, I'm going to do a little measuring without weights and figure out how many rounds I need to do for his leg. I'm using Patton's Croy, which I haven't used before, so I'm hoping it works about the same as the Opal, but it may be a little different. That's why I'm going to measure. So I've got my setup all started. I've got my waste yarn. Ooh, I forgot to do my ripcord. So let me do that real quick. I put the ripcord in because then you can easily separate the hung hem from all the startup mess here, the waste yarn and the bonnet. So we'll just do one round of ripcord and then we'll get started with the regular yarn. The ripcord is just a 50-pound test fishing line. Pull that out of the way. There we go. So one round of that. Okay, we'll go back to our regular yarn. And I'm starting just at the beginning of the blue, where it's going from brown and blue to a lighter gray and blue. And I want to try and remember that so I can start the second sock close to the same point. Get my yarn around the first needle, and then we're going to crank 30 rounds. That's 30. Let me get back up here. I'm going to take off the weight and attempt to count how many rounds I have, how many rounds per inch. Okay, the gray and blue is just about 1 inch. 7, 8. Okay, we're going to go 10 rounds per inch, which is about what the others, the Opal, was. I can tell this yarn is a little bit thicker though because it doesn't look as loose up here. I don't know why I put the weight back on because now I have to hang the hem. And you just take the first stitch, you can see that it's surrounded by the ripcord and adjacent to the waste yarn, and you just pick up the loop and stick it on the needle, which makes a nice hung hem. I haven't done this particular configuration of mock rib. I've been doing a 7 by 1 mock rib, and this time I'm doing a 15 by 1, so it should make the cuff a little bit larger circumference. The 7 by 1 is good for my husband. He's got really thin legs, and though they're still muscular, gotta say that, but I think they're a little bit smaller than average. So I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to pause the video for just a minute and finish hanging the hem so you don't have to just watch my hands for the whole time. Okay, I have almost finished hanging my hem. I've got this small spot here where the needles are down in the cylinder that I can't do yet. Sorry you can't see that because of my yarn carrier. I've also E-wrapped 4 needles with my yarn that was the very beginning of the sock so that I don't have to sew that in later. That's a nifty little trick that I just learned from Karen at CSM Love. I'm sure I've seen other people do it, but that was the first time it really stuck in my head that that was a good thing to do. So we'll try that. That does make this a little bit tighter at the very beginning. Now these other needles are up, so I'm going to go ahead and hang the rest of the hem. Took my weight off to do that so I don't stretch out the yarn too much. And try and keep it right up by the needles so I don't pull it too far. Okay, now I'm going to reset my counter. I'm going to go 69 rounds, and then I am going to put my extra needles in, because the heel and the foot and the toe all use the full cylinder of needles. We're on round 69, and I'm going to put the extra needles back in, and I'm going to do what I forgot to do on my sister's sock, and hers had some nice little lace holes, which I decided would be a design feature, but I don't think Mark wants any lace. But what you do after you put the needles in is you pick up a piece of yarn from the round below and hang it up on the needles. You can actually do it on both sides of the new needle, but I've only done it on one side. So, okay, we've got most of them in, and then this one would be in the cylinder right now, so I have to crank around a little to do that. So I'm just lifting up the loop from the round below on the right side of the new needle. Here's the new needle. I'm going to do 5 rounds of stockinette before I start the heel. Got that one in. We will make sure that that hole is closed. Okay. We're going to round 75 now. Okay, round 75, we're going to stop here and we're going to pick up the needles on the top of the foot, which is the back of the cylinder, for the heel. And I like to both visually and by touch check and make sure all those needles are up, because way more than once I have left one of those needles partially down and then it knits as I go back and forth, and that's not a good thing. It's fixable, but it's not an easy fix. I would rather not do that if I don't have to. Now I need to engage my heel spring because I'm going to be working back and forth, and I need to keep the yarn taut. And this is weird. Okay. I forgot to put my yarn through. Let's see if I can raise this up. There is a little thread, it's like a little tunnel that you thread the yarn through there, and I neglected to get the yarn through there, so my heel spring is not working correctly. So let me see what I can figure out. I may have to break my yarn and I don't think the heel is going to work correctly without that. I'm going to do the first pass and then break the yarn. So I'm going to hold down on this while I come back around. And get into the middle of this, where I can cut my yarn and reattach it. Not an ideal situation, but again, not the end of the world. And I'm going to E-wrap a few of these so that I don't have to sew the ends in later. Can't see if I'm doing that right or not. Okay, rethread my yarn through here. That's a new mistake. I don't think I've done that one before. I've totally skipped the whole mast, but I don't think I've skipped part of it. Okay. I'm going to have to hold that yarn down because the heel spring is going to pull it back up. Okay, we're going this way. Oh, and I dropped a bunch of stitches. Okay. Let's see if I can get those back on. If not, I may abort and start again. Pausing the video for just a minute while I try and get these back on. Okay, well, as you can see, my cylinder is empty. I decided to stop with this sock And the reason that they all came off the needles is when I attached the new yarn and engaged the heel spring, I didn't hold on to that piece of yarn down in the cylinder, and the heel spring just pulled it up, and then when you crank without any yarn on the needles, then any yarn feeding into the needles, then everything just falls off, and that is what happened. So I have this, beginning of a sock that I'm going to need to tear out. So that's today's adventure. Tomorrow I will attempt Mark's sock again. Thanks for watching. Bye.